No one on the bus noticed the way Caleb Wright shrank into his seat as it bumped along the uneven roads of suburban Eastwood. At 15, he was smaller than most boys his age, with narrow shoulders and a frame that made him look more like a middle schooler than a high school sophomore. His wire-rimmed glasses slid down his nose for the third time that ride, and he pushed them back up with a sigh. It was his first day at Eastwood High School, and the sour churn in his stomach only got worse as the towering building came into view. His father's transfer to the regional fire department meant uprooting again, new town, new school, no friends. He ran a nervous hand through his messy dark hair, trying in vain to make it behave before stepping off the bus. The crowd of students moving toward the front entrance paid him no mind, and he liked it that way. What they didn't know, what no one at Eastwood could possibly imagine, was that underneath the loose jeans and oversized hoodie, Caleb was a trained mixed martial artist. He had been training since he was 6 under the strict supervision of his father, Lucas Wright, a former pro fighter turned coach. 9 years of disciplined training had made his body a quiet weapon, lean, conditioned, reflexive. But you'd never guess that from the way he ducked his head and avoided eye contact. Just blend in. Get through the day, he muttered under his breath. Eastwood High was a school that reeked of affluence. Marble-floored entry halls, pristine trophy cases, and walls lined with digital honor boards stood as monuments to success, mostly athletic. Caleb's well-worn backpack and second-hand sneakers drew subtle glances as he shuffled to his locker, schedule in hand. While he studied the layout, trying to figure out how to avoid the most congested hallways, a looming shadow suddenly swallowed the paper in his hands. "Well, what do we have here?" a voice drawled with unmistakable arrogance. Caleb looked up into the face of a broad-shouldered senior wearing a crisp varsity jacket. His smile didn't reach his eyes, which flicked with amusement. "Just finding my classes," Caleb replied softly. "Hey, Josh? Troy. Come check out the new blood," the boy shouted over his shoulder, and 2 more boys sauntered over from nearby lockers. "Name's Bryce. Welcome to Eastwood." The other 2 flanked him. Josh was tall and wiry with narrow eyes that scanned like a calculator. Troy was a block of muscle, his biceps stretching his sleeves taut. "That's Josh," Bryce said, nodding at the leaner boy. "And the big guy's Troy. We run things around here. Call it senior privilege." Caleb didn't flinch, but he did take a small step back. His father's words echoed in his mind. Control is everything. Fighting is a last resort. Never be the aggressor. "I don't want trouble," Caleb said quietly, keeping his eyes low. Bryce snatched the schedule from his hands. "You hear that, boys? He doesn't want trouble. What do you think? Is trouble optional?" Josh smirked as he peered at the paper. "AP Chem and Calc too? We've got ourselves a nerd." He crumpled the paper and tossed it over his shoulder, where it landed near the boots of a girl with streaks of electric blue in her hair. She frowned but said nothing as she retrieved it and handed it back to Caleb. "Thanks," he muttered. "They're jerks," she said. "Name's Tessa." "Caleb." Tessa glanced toward the departing trio. "Bryce's dad's on the school board. Donates big to the athletics department. Coaches and teachers let them get away with anything." "Good to know," Caleb said, brushing dust from his schedule and heading to first period. By lunchtime, the whispers had begun. A new kid always stirred curiosity, but Caleb could feel it in the sideways glances. He was marked. He moved through the cafeteria hoping to find an empty table. But as he walked past a crowded aisle, a leg slid out suddenly in front of him. Caleb saw it. His reflexes would have let him step over it, but he chose not to. He went down hard, his tray clattering, food splattering onto the floor. Laughter erupted. Bryce stood nearby, feigning innocence. "Oops. Didn't see you there, but..." From his place on the ground, Caleb spotted the teacher's table. None moved. None even blinked. He clenched his fists, took a breath, and began collecting his lunch. Tessa appeared beside him, crouched to help. "Come sit with us. Me, Jay, and Ava. We're the unofficial misfit club." Grateful, Caleb followed her to a corner table. Jay was lanky, dressed like a stem and turn, while Ava, with a buzz cut and piercings, gave a small nod of greeting. For the rest of the lunch hour, they filled him in on the school's social dynamics, who to avoid, which hallways had blind spots, and which teachers genuinely cared. "They're worst in the gym," Jay warned. "Coach Murphy practically worships Bryce. He's threatened to pull funds if Bryce gets benched." Caleb added gym to his mental list of hazard zones. The next 2 weeks followed a routine. Bryce and his boys made sport out of tormenting Caleb, bumping into him, knocking books down, mocking his height, his glasses, his soft-spoken nature. They gave him a nickname, Mouse. At first, he ignored them. When they dunked his head in a toilet during third period, he still didn't retaliate. When they stole his jeans in the locker room and forced him to walk around in gym shorts all day, he gritted his teeth. Each night, he came home to the small garage gym his father had converted. He pummeled the heavy bag until sweat soaked his clothes and his muscles ached. "You want to talk?" his father asked one night, holding the pad steady as Caleb unleashed a series of precise combinations. "Nothing I can't handle," Caleb replied, voice clipped. Lucas nodded. "Just remember, power's only real when it's controlled." Caleb nodded. "Always throw the last punch. Never the first." 3 weeks into his nightmare at Eastwood, everything changed. He was heading to his locker after last bell when he heard a shout. Rounding the corner, he saw Bryce and his crew surrounding Jay, who was backed against the wall, his chest set scattered. "Please," Jay was pleading. "Those pieces are part of a tournament set. They're expensive. You should have thought about that before correcting me in trig class," Bryce sneered, grinding his heel into a knight. Caleb felt something snap. Quietly, he stepped forward. "Leave him alone." Bryce turned, surprise flashing across his face. "Look who grew a pair. This your business now, Mouse." "It is now." Bryce smirked. "Bathroom. Now." Before they could grab him, Caleb whispered to Jay, "Go. Get Tessa and Ava." Once Jay was gone, Caleb allowed himself to be dragged into the boys' bathroom. He offered light resistance, just enough to play the part. Inside, Troy checked the stalls. Josh locked the door. "You could have avoided this," Bryce said. "All you had to do was play your part." Caleb exhaled. "One last chance. This won't go how you think it will." "Oh, really?" "Troy," Bryce barked, "hold him." The brute stepped forward, locking Caleb's arms behind his back. Big mistake. In one fluid motion, Caleb dropped his weight and twisted, breaking the hold. Before they could process what happened, he grabbed Troy's arm and pivoted, slamming him into the tiled wall. Josh lunged and caught a textbook-perfect strike to the gut. He doubled over. Caleb swept his legs and sent him crashing down. Bryce froze. "What the hell are you?" he whispered. Caleb straightened his glasses. "Someone who asked to be left alone." Bryce came at him. Caleb slipped the punch, delivered a precise palm strike to the chest, then a jab-cross combo that sent Bryce careening into the sink. "I've trained since I was 6, Caleb said, standing over them. "I didn't want this. I asked to be left alone." He turned to the door, then paused. "And if you ever lay a hand on Jay, or Tessa, or Ava again, this will seem like a warm-up." 3 groaning nods followed him out. By the next morning, Eastwood buzzed with exaggerated versions of the bathroom brawl. Some said Caleb had broken Bryce's ribs. Others claimed he used ninja moves. The truth, simple and undeniable, was that the quiet kid wasn't so helpless after all. Bryce limped. Josh avoided eye contact. Troy flinched when someone raised their voice. Caleb became something else entirely. Not a legend. Not a monster. Just someone people gave space to. At lunch, more students approached the misfit table. Tessa grinned. "You're kind of a hero now." "I didn't do it to be a hero," Caleb said. "Maybe not," Ava added. "But you showed people they don't have to take it." Over the next month, the climate at Eastwood began to shift. Teachers cracked down. The hallway taunts stopped. Even the coaches reigned in the Golden Boys. One afternoon, Caleb was surprised to find Bryce waiting near his locker. "Not here to fight," Bryce said quickly, raising his hands. Caleb waited. "My dad saw the bruises. I told him the truth. Everything. He lost it. Not at you. At me. Said he didn't raise a bully. Told me if he hears I touch another kid, I'm off the team." Caleb said nothing. "I'm not asking for a pass. Just, I get it now. What we did was wrong. I'm sorry." Caleb nodded. "Takes guts to admit that." Bryce started to walk away, then turned. "You ever think about joining MMA club? You'd crush it." "I'll think about it," Caleb replied with a rare smile. Later that night, his father waited at the kitchen table. Principal called. Caleb's heart sank. "Said you broke up a bullying situation. Defended a friend. It was the last resort, Dad. I swear." Lucas studied his son. Then he smiled. "That's my boy. You waited. You endured. And when it counted, you stood up." Caleb smiled back. Weeks passed. He joined the physics club with Jay. Helped Tessa and Ava launch an anti-bullying initiative. Even Bryce, eventually, joined the effort. Together, they made real change. Caleb never asked for recognition. He never wanted to be a symbol. He just wanted to be Caleb Wright, student, friend, someone who chose strength with compassion, and who reminded the world that the quiet ones aren't always weak. Sometimes, they're the strongest of all.